Good morning. I'm on the bus going to work, hoping that I will have a nice quiet shift. Yeah, hoping for a nice quiet shift. Not too sure that's going to happen, but yeah, hoping. Oh, yeah. Hard at work. I'm done work. End of shift. Yay. Going home. Oh. Hey, yeah. So, I'm just sitting down after a long shift, and oh, it is a gorgeous day out there. I'm going to show you. It's a gorgeous day out. There you go. See that? That's a gorgeous day. Yeah. So, anywho, we're going to discuss a few things, okay? All right. Oh, wow. Yeah. So, oh, we're going to talk about a phenomenon that is not uniquely American, but is most grossly represented in America. Proletariat workers identifying with their oppressors. It's a bizarre phenomenon, truly. It is a truly bizarre phenomenon. The worker identifies with the oppressor. John Steinbeck explained it perfectly. The reason that America does not have a strong socialist workers' party is that the workers have convinced themselves that they are not so much an exploited proletariat as they are temporarily embarrassed millionaires. Or in this case, billionaires, because we live in the 21st century now, and so, yeah, temporarily embarrassed billionaires. That at any moment, the riches are going to flow to me, and then I'm going to be rich, and I don't need the protection that is afforded by socialism. I'll be able to just buy my way through life because I will be rich. I've been promised. And this is very often expressed in the trope that often appeared in American movies and early television shows and radio broadcasts, that everybody has a rich uncle in Texas who at any moment is just going to show up on your doorstep and invite you down to Texas and give you a mansion and hand you a bunch of oil wells, and you're going to be rich too. Yeah. Of course, if you live in Texas, it's a rich uncle in New England, or maybe a rich uncle in California. But it's always a rich uncle that nobody in the family has ever mentioned or talked about, who's going to come down and take a personal interest in you specifically. And you're going to be whisked away to a life of wealth, power, and privilege, so you don't need to vote in favor of any kind of programs that help the poor. In fact, you should vote against those because you're going to be rich. You are going to be rich. And this also explains the prosperity gospel message that Jesus is going to give you money. That if you give your grocery money and your rent money to the nice preacher who's telling you to give your money to Jesus, oh, give us your money. Jesus will love you. Jesus will reward you. Give us your money. If you give him your rent money for next month, if you give him your grocery money for next month, if you give him your children's lunch money for school for the rest of the month, that he will intercede with Jesus and Jesus will give you $1 million. Only in America does this kind of bullshit actually work. And it works. It works so well that prosperity preachers are some of the richest people in America. Yeah. Yeah. They're just bringing in the money. Because Americans are greedy, unfortunately. And yet those greedy Americans will not vote in favor of programs that help them and protect them and allow them to keep a greater share of their meager income. Because American workers have been brainwashed into believing that they're going to be rich someday. That someday their rich uncle in Texas, or their rich uncle in New England, or their rich uncle in California is going to show up on their doorstep, take them away to the mansion, and make them rich. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And of course, this is bullshit. Nobody has a rich uncle in Texas. Nobody has a rich uncle in California. Nobody has a rich uncle in New England. He's not there, people. He doesn't exist. You're not going to be rich. You are, in fact, specifically, an exploited proletariat. You are workers. You are never going to be owners. You are not part of the capitalist class, no matter how much you protest that you are a proud capitalist while living in a rundown trailer in a trailer park and having 3 broken down cars in your front yard. Yeah. And desperately struggling to keep a job that you have to bid against other workers in order to keep. You are never going to be rich. So stop voting against your own interests. Stop voting as though you were going to be rich. Stop voting as though you were about to win the lottery. Stop voting as though you have a rich uncle in Texas who's about to knock on your door, knock, 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 and take you away from your poverty and your misery and make you rich. That's not going to happen. You do not have a rich uncle in Texas. If you're in Texas, you do not have a rich uncle in New England. You don't. And you're not going to win the lottery. Yeah. You're not going to invent a magic pill that cures cancer from your shed where you mix different colored powders together. That's not how it works. You're not going to be a millionaire. You're going to remain a dirt poor person whose bank balance is never more than $500, if indeed it's ever more than $50. Yeah. And even that is temporary, because as soon as you've deposited your paycheck, it gets pulled out in service fees for having a bank balance below 10 grand. Yeah. You literally live in a society that punishes you for being poor and then promises you that you will get rich, but it never delivers on the promise. And that's because the promise is a lie. You do not have a rich uncle in Texas. Pardon me. And you are never going to be a millionaire or a billionaire. You are an exploited proletariat worker. And it's time you started to act like it. Vote socialist. Vote left of center. Stop voting for right-wing or moderate right-wing or extreme right-wing parties that exist solely to protect the interests of the obscenely rich. And start voting for people who represent you, as you are in the real world, not as you want to be in your fantasy, but as you are, a poor, exploited worker and a member of the proletariat class. Because that's what you are. You are the exploited proletariat. You are not a capitalist. No matter how much you may pretend to be one, no matter how much you may protest, oh no, I'm a capitalist, I'm a capitalist. You do not own the means of production. You do not own the factories. You do not own the farms. You do not own the sweatshops. You do not own anything. You are renting a trailer in a trailer park. You have a car that you are one paycheck away from living in, and your car is falling apart, and you can't afford to fix it. You are bidding against your fellow workers, if you live in a right-to-work state, for the privilege of working for less money than you did last week. Your rights, which were fought for by labor unions, are being taken away from you by two right-wing parties, two conservative parties, the Republicans and the Democrats in America. And if you're a Canadian, the Conservatives are doing the same thing. They are eroding your rights in order to ensure that the rich, the obscenely rich, are the privileged owners and rulers of your life. And they're telling you that you're going to get rich. You just have to work really hard and you will be rich. And you've worked hard all your life and you've still got nothing. And it's time for you to take a look at that fact, look at the evidence, and accept the fact that you are never going to be a millionaire. You are always going to be a proletariat worker. And no, you are not a capitalist. You do not own the means of production. You are not a capitalist. You are a worker. Be a worker. Be proud of the fact that you are a worker. Join a union. Organize a union. Return to unionization, because unionization is what gave you the rights that are now being taken away from you by unrestricted capitalism. Unions are socialist. Unions are socialism. Public health care is socialism. Public education is socialism. Public parks, public transit, these are all socialism. State-subsidized affordable housing is socialism. Everything that benefits you as a worker is socialism. Recognize that fact. And take back what your grandparents and your great-grandparents fought and bled for generations ago. Take back what right-wing reactionaries like Reagan, Bush, and Clinton have taken away from you. Take back your dignity. And read John Steinbeck. In particular, read The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, a great American writer, union supporter, and socialist. Read Steinbeck. I think that's about it. Take care, be well, stay safe, ladies and gentlemen.